Firstly, I would like to welcome Mr. Ahmed Bar, Advisor of the Guinean Community Association, to the stage. Welcome, Mr. Bar.
Thank you, Mariam. Good evening to the representative of OMI, the representative of Multicultural, to our guest speaker and family, Professor Colin Fisher of the University of Western Australia, all community leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Guinean community in Western Australia, we thank all of you for leaving your day-to-day activities and join us for the celebrations of the Guinean Independence Day. It is my pleasure to address this speech to each and every one of you on this glorious occasion that marks the Guinean Independence Day. The Republic of Guinea gains her independence on the 2nd of October 1958. It has been 56 years since our independence, and we have come a long way. There has been sad things and good things within the 56 years that test our solidarity as a nation. The Republic of Guinea is a multilingual country with 40 speaking languages. The official language is French, which was inherited from colonial rule. Several indigenous languages have been given the status of national language, like Fula or Pula, Malinke or Madingo, Soso or Soso, Kisi or Gisi, Pere, Toma or Loma. We live in harmony with two official religions, Muslim and Christian, and we celebrate each other's festivals. Regarding to the positive changes that we have achieved 56 years, we have emerged as one of Africa's strong and emerging economy with vast natural resources. We have achieved such in green revolution, cultural and mineral resources, and still the Republic of Guinea has many minerals untouched. We are proud to say that one of the biggest mining companies in the world, Rio Tinto, is currently operating in Guinea. Rio Tinto is a multinational corporation with a strong presence in Australia, our second home. Though it has been many years since our independence, let us not forget to remember the great leaders who fought for our freedom in the Republic of Guinea and all over Africa. Importantly, let us remember the way we achieved our freedom. We achieved our freedom assertively without being aggressive. We still stand as one of the great countries in the West Africa region and Africa as a whole because of our soft yet strong nature, diverse culture and values. We might not be treated well by some other countries, but we treat those who come to us with respect. And we try to protect ourselves with courage. We are strictly against any type of terrorism and fight against it on the field. Some may call such attributes of our country to be weak. However, I can surely tell you these are the attributes that has made us survive thousands of years. We salute our sister countries, Sierra Leone and Liberia, which we share borders, and we also share the same river. We are interrelated because we have tribes in Guinea that are also found in these countries. We are kindly asking the international community, the World Health Organization, the Australian government to please put more effort to eradicate the Ebola disease outbreak that is affecting our sub-region. We extend our greatest sympathy to all the affected members and families in the sub-region. Yes, indeed, There are some setbacks including corruption, poverty, and ignorance. However, one cannot deny that even the most powerful nations have these setbacks. We have the freedom to talk about corruption or anything perhaps, to take steps against the corruption, and most importantly, freedom of expression. Though Guinea did not have good economic background in the beginning, our current status in global economic strengths is appreciated and invaded by many. We have also developed a great deal in the areas of science and research. Slowly, we are trying to eradicate poverty, and one of such initiatives is self-help groups. There are many NGOs that are trying to provide awareness in various areas. This is indeed a great feat achieved after our independence. In this day of our independence, let us remember how Guinea has set an example to the entire world for being accommodating and kind to sister nations during peace and crisis. We hosted nearly 1 million plus refugees during the civil war in Sierra Leone and Liberia. We may not be a wealthy power in the world, yet we are recognized as good human beings in a great country. Everything in the world changes, but not principles of human values. Guineans is known to be great that follows the principle. Let us thank the leaders who fought for our freedom with courage and for setting us good examples. Guinea has produced eminent scholars in various fields which we can be proud of. And education is a priority of all Guineans, home and abroad. Most importantly, let us not be discouraged about our shortfalls. We can improve and develop through unity and solidarity. Let us strive to make our country a better and safe place by following the values and principles taught by our great leaders. Let us spread awareness, knowledge, values, and gain wisdom. Let us make this our Independence Day resolution. If each individual of our country follows these basic principles, we will grow, so will families and surroundings, and eventually it will lead our country to become a great nation. Therefore, let us make a promise in this auspicious Independence Day, and let us make Guinea, our motherland, shine even brighter into our future. I thank all the women, most especially Madam Fatma Ba, my wife, Madam Aminatu Bari, the wife of the Guinean, the president of the Guinean Association, Madam Agnes Kamara, Madam Bintu Kamara, and all those who prepared our delicious foods that we come in to enjoy. And also, I want to thank the youth wing and the soccer club of the Guinean Association who won the Eid Cup at the end of Ramadan. I also thank all of you who are here today. I'm so glad to be given this opportunity to address this gathering in the presence of our eminent guests and my fellow Africans on this day of our independence. I thank you all once again. Finally, I thank the government and people of Australia for being so kind and generous to us Guineans and Africans in general. We appreciate the changes you have made into our lives. Thank you very much.
Next, I would like to I am pleased to have the chance to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Colleen Fisher, Deputy Head of School of Population Health, Faculty of Medicine, Dentistry and Health Science at the University of Western Australia. So, without further ado, let us put our hands together for Professor Colleen Fisher.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to also my fellow guests from Assets and from me, ladies and gentlemen, and girls and boys. I'd really like to thank the Guinean Community Association of Western Australia for their invitation to join with you in the celebration of the 56th anniversary of the attainment of Guinean independence. My husband Ken and my son Kai, who are here with me tonight, are very honoured to be with you all this evening. I'd particularly like to acknowledge your President, Dr. Ali Barry, and Vice President, Yamo Bar, and recognise their many years of involvement in community activities, both in advocating for your community and bringing community members together in celebration, such as this event this evening. First up, I'd like to add my voice to the importance of, and hence our celebration of, independence. Achievement of independence says to the world, as an independent country, we are capable of, and we will be making decisions on our own behalf. Decisions that we consider will be in our own best interests. It also means that identity as a nation can be forged and no longer bound up in that of colonising countries. So the 2nd of December 1958 was an historical point in time for Guinea and its people. There were certainly many challenges leading up to independence, and there's no doubt challenges still remain, including the current concerns brought about by the spread of Ebola virus in Guinea and other Western African countries, unrest and poverty. All these issues, however, are potentially avoidable, as Guinea is a country which is very rich in resources. But the foundation from which Guinea has moved forward since 1958, independence, is something to be extremely proud of and something to cherish and to celebrate. This gathering here this evening is certainly an important way of collectively celebrating that attainment. As Mariana said, in my day job, I'm lucky enough to be a lecturer and a researcher at the University of Western Australia. I'm also the head of school at the School of Population Health at UWA. So both me as an individual and the discipline of public health more broadly have very strong commitments to principles of social justice, of equity and of human rights. And these three principles certainly underpin the way that I teach, and they also impact on what I research. So with my teaching hat on, it pleases me immensely to see more and more students from West African countries, including Guinea, coming through our doors at UWA. For me, education plays an essential role in building the capacity and the resources for communities to be self-determining and proactive in responding to issues that they consider are important to them. And these issues can be diverse, from advocating for local facilities to ensuring appropriate and culturally responsible responses to health and issues of importance. So I would encourage the youth here this evening to strive for the best education that you possibly can, because it certainly opens many doors. With my research hat on, I firmly believe that what is researched should be driven by community members themselves, and indeed community members should be involved right across the research process. In late 2007, I was approached by Mark Glasson. Some of you may remember Mark. He was the Executive Director of the then Family and Domestic Violence Unit. And what he wanted to see is if I was interested in being involved in a community-based research project examining domestic violence with communities from an African refugee background. And I jumped at that opportunity for many reasons, but two in particular. Number one, I'd been researching domestic violence for many years, and it meant being involved in research that was genuinely community-driven. And what I mean by that is that research and how it should be undertaken is directed by members of the communities who are involved. So in essence, the research is on tap, not on top. I remember vividly going along to introduce myself and meet with the steering committee for that particular project. And the committee was mainly community leaders. And I remember being questioned, in particular by a very proud woman from one of the West African communities. And she was asking me about how I undertake research and whether or not I would cede control of that research to the communities. And quite rightly, those questions should be asked and they should be answered. So it's been about the end of 2007 that I've been involved with projects with African communities, including the Guinean community. So that initial research not only paved the way for future projects in the communities, and I'll mention those shortly, but it also built knowledge and capacity among those who were involved. It was decided by the steering committee for that project that members from their respective communities should undertake the interviews for the research. And those steering committee members actually identified people from their communities for me to train to do this. We ended up training about 15 people, and I've trained about qualitative research, about undertaking interviews, using interview guide, and a range of other research-related topics. Our interviewers were both men and women, and they included youth, as well as older members of the communities. I'm really pleased to say that some have gone on to complete university, and one was successful in securing a research assistant position following her work on that research project. I have very fond memories of this project, including being in the homes of those who undertook the interviews for the research, and seeing family life happening, hearing the sounds of food bubbling away on stoves and the wonderful aromas drifting from the cooking. The research culminated with the launch of the report, which was a real celebration and was held at Assets. Some of you were there. The food, the African drumming and the goodwill is something that I'll always remember. But that was not the end. Out of that report and following discussions in communities, 3 successful submissions for funding to roll out domestic violence training to communities have been made. Members of the Guinean community have been very proactive and supportive of these projects and were among over 20 people who were involved in training in the first project funded by the Office of Multicultural Interests. The involvement required was a real commitment from participants. There was training across many weekends, and then they provided support for and information about the issue in the community. You may remember Meski from Assets and Astrid Chapman, who actually coordinated that project. Its success, which I was fortunate enough to have evaluated, was due in no small part to the engagement and the commitment of community member participants, and it led to Assets being able to secure additional funding to expand the project. The next round of funding was for 2 additional projects that were based on a train-the-trainer model and funded through Commonwealth funds. I'm sure that many of you know Kate Burrell, who managed one of the projects and worked closely with the Guinean community across the time that she was at Assets. In these 2 latter projects, participants from the Guinean community were once again involved in training over a number of weekends, a really big commitment. And after the training, their role was to impart their knowledge to fellow community members in a sort of a train-the-trainer format, but also to support community members who may be dealing with family-related issues. I'm currently evaluating those 2 projects and have been fortunate once again to reconnect with members of a number of African communities, including the Guinean community, through this evaluation. And I have to say, the projects have and are making a real difference in communities. The evaluation data also suggests that agencies, such as the police, now approach community leaders who have been trained as part of these projects for advice and for information about appropriate ways of working with respective communities. Community leaders and members are now being seen as the experts when responding to domestic violence issues in their communities. And I think this is a remarkable turnaround from a few short years ago and testament to the commitment and the contribution that you're making to the Western Australian community. I believe what has also been really important in these projects is the way that the youth have been engaged. Our youth are our future leaders. Supporting and fostering their growth and development can only have positive outcomes for a strong, diverse and multicultural country. And from speaking with many of them, I feel really that we are in good, safe hands. The success of these projects in your communities is proof that through a genuine partnership based on respect for difference and recognition that each has something of real value to contribute, agencies, community members and researchers are able to work in ways that creates real difference on the ground. At the same time, we're able to build capacity in communities to identify and allow community members to respond to issues that are of importance, and this is vital. For me, being a researcher is about making a difference. If, as researchers, we're not working in partnership with communities and community members, addressing issues that they consider need to be addressed, and building capacity, then we're failing badly in our mission. So to link the research and the involvement of community members in that research and the projects to independence, I feel that independence obtained at a national level has parallels at the community level. The sense of purpose, pride and identity that is bound up in independence for a nation parallels the ability that the community at the community level for individuals are able to build connections, to advocate for and make decisions that are for the collective good of the community. Over my years' involvement with your community, I've learned so much from you. I've learned a lot more about African family life and the importance placed on children and youth. Through meeting and being with you, I've come to appreciate human resilience and the real will among community leaders and others to making a difference in the lives of their members. I've researched extensively in the area of domestic violence, and throughout that time, I've not met more passionate and committed people who want to make a difference in their community through addressing and responding to such issues. I see the work that has been done by your community members as a real success story, and one which you all should be justifiably proud. So in a nutshell, I feel so enriched through meeting with you and working with you, and do believe that our rich Australian multicultural tradition is enhanced so much by your presence. And I wish you all the very best for the future and celebrate independence with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution, Professor Colleen Fisher. On the topic of multiculturalism in WA, please welcome Mr. Syed Padsha, Senior Community. He is the Senior Community Engagement Officer representing the Office of Multicultural Interest for me. Welcome, Mr. Padsha.
Mr. Alibari, the President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's really great to be here with you this evening representing the Office of Multicultural Interests. I'd like to convey apologies from our Executive Director, Rebecca Ball. She would have really loved to be here with you tonight, but because she's overseas, you have to put up with me. I will be very short and very brief, especially after a wonderful presentation that Colleen made. As you all know, Australia is a highly diverse nation, and in that, Western Australia is one of the most diverse of all the states and territories in Australia. WA's population is also the fastest growing of all Australian states and territories. This growth contributes to our diversity and is expressed through the increasing number and range of languages, religions, cultures, and countries of origin, which makes Western Australia today and we identify with. Western Australia is home to people from more than 190 countries, speaking approximately 270 languages and dialects, including 50 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages. And Western Australians follow more than 130 religious faiths or denominations. People from the United Kingdom, Europe, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, and more recently from South Asia and Africa, have made Western Australia their home, creating a harmonious environment that respects diversity. And of course, the Guinean community is a very important contributing part of that society and the wider state. And I think one important or interesting fact is that Perth, during the 2011 census, Perth had the highest proportion of people born overseas in any states and territories, with 35% of people born overseas. Western Australia's cultural diversity has been greatly influenced by migration, as we all know. The changing waves of post-World War II migration have transformed our society from one that was predominantly Anglo-European to one that accepts and includes people from all parts of the world. Migration and diversity have given WA a competitive edge in a globalized world. Migrants create ties connecting their new home with their old. They create unique opportunities that have contributed to the development of our economy and social harmony. All Western Australians benefit from our state's diversity. The state government acknowledges cultural diversity as one of our state's greatest strengths and is committed to working towards a more inclusive and cohesive society which recognizes that cultural and linguistic diversity enhances the social, economic, cultural and civic development of Western Australia and the well-being of all community members. And of course, as I mentioned before, that means all of you members of the Guinean community play a very important part in that. I'd like to congratulate you all on the Independence Day of Guinea, 56th Independence Day. And I'd like to thank Mr. Ali Barry, his committee, and everyone who has worked hard to put today's event together. And thank you very much for having us. Again, happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Mr. Pacha, for your contribution. On the topic of relationships between assets and the general community, please welcome Mr. Michael Jones. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Assets, who continues to support and defend the legality of torture and trauma survivors through professionalism. Welcome.
Thank you, Mariam. I'd like to thank Mr. Ali Barry, President of your association, for his kind and generous invitation to come here tonight and speak. In looking at the work that we do, I often reflect on the nature of struggle and particularly the struggle for independence and what it must mean. It can't be something that everyone relates to immediately. But I think when you look across at all the cultures and all the communities that exist in Western Australia, and as was pointed out, the sheer diversity of that, at some point in history, at some point in time, whether it's 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years ago, each of our communities, each of our forebears have had that struggle. Life can be quite barren pre-independence, pre-struggle, when there's misfortune, tyranny, dictatorship and so on. It can be quite harsh. And if I look at a landscape that is barren of plants, that is barren of life, and I look at how change might happen, how things might develop, I think of the seeds in the ground waiting for that moment of germination. I think, is that what we celebrate? Is that the day of independence? Is that when it starts? For that to come to fruition, the sun must warm the earth, the rain must fall on the earth, wet the ground. There must be that first sprout of life. Do we celebrate that? Is that the moment where the struggle has fruition, that things come to pass? That independence, if you like, is coming, it's going to happen. The first plants, though, don't always survive. It can be quite harsh. You pop your head up, have a look around, there's no one else there, you're alone, things don't work. Another season, another time, more plants sprout, more flowers bloom. Suddenly there's a movement, suddenly there's a hunger, there's a desire for that independence, that freedom, that self-determination. But you don't know how long that's going to take. When you look at the struggles that your forebears and some of you may have gone through, etc., it's hard for me to relate to that. But I know through the work we do at Assets, sitting with people who've been on those journeys, who are still sometimes involved in those struggles, those journeys, we can hear the worst that people can do. We can hear of the really bad things. And we can think that life is harsh, that life is very barren. But in amongst those conversations, as we sit with people and hear their stories, we also see the glimmer of the good. We can see what can come to pass. The plants sprouting, blooming, the flowers, the new seeds, the new growth, and the change that occurs over time. On that basis, I suppose I can't say that I know what it's like to struggle for independence. It's not been my experience. It's not been my life. But in thinking about the world that I want my children to grow up in, I can think about harshness. I can think about the conditions that are required for change. I can think about the life that comes from the ground, the sun, the wind, the water, the fertile soils, all coming together at some point in time. For Guinea, that came together 56 years ago. That came in that moment. I think as you reflect on Independence Day and celebrate it, you think that is the point where we can agree that we've got a time to celebrate. But for some of you, you'll be thinking before that. You'll be thinking of when the struggle started. You'll be thinking of the efforts, the struggles of people before you to make that come to pass. When I look out at the broader community that Assets serves, and we look at our employees, our volunteers, we look at our families, our children, we can't all know that experience. But certainly we're touched every time we work with people who have been part of that struggle, who have been part of that result, who have then come to celebrate like the benefits of that work and that determination. I wish in the broader Australian public that we could have a mature debate about the politics of what happens to people, what causes flight, what causes persecution, what causes torture to happen. And as I say, we quite often hear and see the worst of things. But I always want to focus that in amongst that will be the glimmer of the good, and I think that's what we should always remember and celebrate. So on that basis, thank you for your invitation here today, and on behalf of all of the staff, the volunteers, the members, past and present, of Assets, congratulations to you all and our heartfelt wishes to you on this celebration. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your contribution. Our next speaker, Mrs. Olivia Boltan, could not have made it here tonight, unfortunately. So, on the topic of relationships between Sierra Leone and Guinea, please welcome Mr. Alhaji Suleiman Jallo.
Mr. Barry, ladies and gentlemen, peace be unto you all. It is a surprise call on me on this stage to talk about the relationship between Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. I find it very easy because we share the same culture of dress, food, and it's hardly for you to differentiate a Sierra Leonean to a Guinean or a Liberian by just seeing them walking around. Sierra Leone, most of our parents, like we the Fullers, originated from Guinea. Like our forefathers came from Guinea, and most of us were born in Sierra Leone. So we find that a relationship between the three countries is very cordial. And we have an organization called Mano River Union. That's a river that divides these three countries. So our political activities very similar. We are similar in every single thing. As I said, food, cloth, most of the culture is already similar. But at the moment, we're in a big crisis and we're asking for help internationally and nationally this illness that fall into these 3 countries called Ebola. We pray to the Almighty God to protect our people from this disaster. We don't even know where this sick come from. People say from bush meat, but for me, I have a big question. This bush meat, even me, I'm part of it. We'll be eating bush meat since before I was born. Why now we have Ebola? So we are asking the international body, and most of the time, they say they're going to help, but they concentrate somewhere else more than West Africa. So this is a wake-up call for we Sierra Leoneans, Guineans, and Liberians. It's a wake-up call to know what we should do towards our countries. So I thank you all. I congratulate Mr. Barry, and on behalf of the Sierra Leone community, thank you all. Thank you again. God bless you all.
Thank you, Alaji Solomon Jallo, for your contribution. On the topic of relationships between Liberia and Guinea, please welcome Mr. Nathaniel Nyamfo, Chairman of the Liberian Community Association of WA. Welcome, Mr. Nyamfo.
Thank you all, the invited guests, our head of school, our delegates from OMI, our delegates from ASEC, our elders, fellow community leaders, boys and girls, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm G. Nathaniel Nyamfo from the Liberian community, currently the president of that association. It is a beautiful day to have an independent. It reminds us of the struggle our forefathers went through, and they paid the price, and today we are enjoying the benefit or the price that they paid. In other words, someone planted a tree way back so that today we are under the shelter. Now that we are under the shelter, what can we do for the next generation? And so it brings me to the topic, relationship between Liberia and Guinea. This relationship has been a long one. Today, Guinea is celebrating 56. Liberia just celebrated 167. So Ethiopia had an independent and had an independent again, making Liberia the first independent state of Africa. And since then, Liberia have been in a place of fighting imperialism for other African nations such as Guinea, Sierra Leone today. And if we talk about relationship, just a bit of background, Liberia and Sierra Leone had a civil war, even though it did not affect Guinea that much, but it also affected Guinea in many ways. And that was a relationship, even though it was a negative relationship. It's still a relationship. Again, Sierra Leone and Liberia formed the Mano River Union in 1973, and in 1980, Guinea joined. It's still a relationship. Today we have another relationship, which is Ebola. Ebola started from Guinea, entered Liberia, and in Sierra Leone. These 3 countries again is still a relationship. So I'm here to have a bit of discourse. Not exactly a speech, but a relationship where every language almost in Guinea is the same, in Sierra Leone is the same, in Liberia. Like my previous speaker said, we have similar food, similar way of dressing. You cannot distinguish a Sierra Leonean, a Liberian, or a Guinean just by walking or just by talking until they tell you, I am a Liberian or I am a Guinean, etc. Today, our relationship, we are fighting Ebola. What can we do based on our history of unity or solidarity? What can we do? Today, the CDC projection Center for Disease Control in America projected from now to January next year, we could have 1.4 million people affected with Ebola. That is huge. That is a blow, that is a setback. And so we are asking, I just don't want to go in deeper a relationship between these three countries, but we are coming together today. Let us look at how we can, not at the doors of the government of Western Australia, the people of Western Australia, the Medical Association of Western Australia, the Health Department, so that we can lobby, so that we can ask for help and help these three countries back that are affected in West Africa. So celebrating the independence today is supposed to be a day of joy, but it's also a day of remembrance, of mourning, because there are people that we have lost back home, and today we are celebrating. We are happy to celebrate because Independence Day is worth celebration. It's worth that now you are able to make your own decisions. You are now able to be self-determined, determine your future. But at the same time, there are people that have been lost and continue to go down the drain. What can we do? It is about time Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, we come together and fight this deadly virus, so that if our people rejoice back home, we can as well live in peace here. So again, my fellow community leaders, the Guinean community, the Sierra Leone community, our invited guests, this is our plea on this day of Guinea's 56th Independence Day. Instead of celebrating in joy, we rather want to ask in joy, humbling ourselves before the people of Western Australia where we reside, as citizens or permanent residents, that we need their help. We need their help, and we need their help now. If they won't help us, it has to be now. Guinea community, my fellow leaders, Mr. Ali Barry, thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity to talk on your occasion. I'm very honored, and from the Liberian community, I want to say thank you. Enjoy a very bright and beautiful Independence Day, and thank you all, my fellow invited guests. Thank you.
It is indeed overwhelming and encouraging for our community association to have you all with us today, marking the celebration of the 56th Independence Day of the Republic of Guinea. As we celebrate this joyous occasion of an independent nation, we must remember the struggle our forefathers faced before achieving total independence from France on 2nd October 1958. Guinea is counted as one of the countries that gained independence without violence, but through negotiation with the then French President General de Gaulle. The first president, called Ahmed Sékou Touré, pursued a revolutionary socialist agenda and crossed all political opposition. Following Sékou Touré's death in 1984, after 26 years of brutal rule, an army general by the name of Lansana Conté succeeded him in a bloodless coup. Overall, Guinea has been ruled by 4 presidents, 2 civilians and 2 military officers. However, Guinea's mineral wealth makes it potentially one of the world's richest countries, but listed one of the poorest in the world due to mismanagement of past and present governments. Considering its possession of important mineral resources, Guinea has an important deposits of iron and bauxite ores, gold and diamonds, etc. Recently, Rio Tinto signed a $20 billion contract with the Guinean government for the exploration of bauxite at the Nimba Mountain in the forest region of Guinea. Guinea is considered to have the second largest bauxite reserve in the world after Australia. Guinea shares borders with 6 neighboring countries, including Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Mali, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau. Like any other West African country, Guinea struggled for a better governance. Relationship among Malo River Union countries. Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia enjoy a positive socio-economic and good relationship among its people and different governments. In 1973, as one of our speakers said, Liberia and Sierra Leone established an international association called the Malo River Union. The protocol documents was signed between President William Talbot and President Shaka Stevens of the Republic of Sierra Leone. In 1980, Guinea joined the Union. The Malo River Union begins its source in the Guinean highlands and forms a border between Liberia and Sierra Leone. Objective of the Union was to foster economic cooperation among member countries. On 1st April 2008, Ivory Coast agreed to join the Union during a state visit by the Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. In one of the speeches of the late President of Guinea, he declared that the 3 Malo River Union member states comprises of 3 people with one heart of a common vision in the future. As proof of statement, Guinea enrolled the highest refugees in the world, over 1.5 million people. Source UNHCR 1995. From Liberia and Sierra Leone during the rebel war in the 2 neighboring countries, which started in Liberia on December 25, 1989. Aside of good relationship, it was difficult to differentiate between Guineans and the real refugees from respective countries. Apart from this, living in refugee camps, apart of those living in refugee camps, Liberians and Sierra Leoneans live happily with Guineans in towns and villages all over the country. Most refugees were lucky to learn skills and different local languages, including the French language, that facilitated communication between refugees and the ordinary Guinean. In reality, it is the same people that are rotating in these 4 countries, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Ivory Coast. Tribes found in Guinea are the Fula, the Mandingos, the Soso, Kisi, Toma, Geze, Landoma, Kurako, Jaluka, etc., etc. We have a lot of tribes in Guinea. These are the type of, the countries, the tribes we found in Guinea. In Sierra Leone, we had the Mendes, the Timini, the Limba, the Longo, the Sapro, the Kisi, the Mandingo, the Fula, the Creole, etc., etc. In Liberia, we had the Bassa, the Loma, the Kisi, the Grimo, the Mano, the Gio, the Kram, the Congo, the Fula, etc., etc. So you can see how this, our relationship is almost the same people. So we were wrong to call each other a foreigner before. Geographically, it is the same family members that are scattered all over the West African region, and we need to demonstrate our ethnicities, heritage, and love one another in order to keep the legacy of our forefathers who used their wisdom to live happily together as family. Most importantly, our cultures, traditions, and heritage should be paramount to all those with African background. Our integration and settlement into the Australian society is eminent. Rules and regulations laid down by the Australian government are to be taken into considerations at all times if only we need to live happily in this part of the world. This is the reason why, when the Ebola virus was discovered in our sub-region, precisely in the forest zone of Guinea, I personally knew it will escalate to Sierra Leone and Liberia if at all prevention measures are neglected by the present government. Ebola first emerged at the center border of the three countries, and rapidly it went beyond the imagination due to poor prevention measures taken by its country of origin. It is sad and sympathetic for those who may have lost relatives and loved ones by the tragic pandemic disease without any cure, yet to be found by medical researchers. May our deepest condolences reach to those families affected. In conclusion, may I take this opportunity to thank all those present here today, including the entire Guinean community, particularly the Social Affairs Coordinating Team, headed by my lovely wife, Aminat Mubarak, and her assistant, Mrs. Fatma Kaba. Without these two ladies, this event should not have been possible. Personally, I thank Mr. Chairman, the Vice President of the Association, for his tireless effort to make the event a success. You merit to be honored and encouraged to keep the good work. For service providers and the Australian government, the Guinean community of Dobie remains happy for the assistance the Australian government continues to render the African community in general. We are aware of all the services the Australian government is undertaking to eradicate the deadly Ebola virus from the West African sub-region. However, we appeal to the government to double their effort in assisting those affected who need urgent care. We know how difficult and challenging the situation can be for Australia, with lots of its citizens coming from the West African affected region. May the Almighty God bless you all, bless Africa and Australia. I thank you all.
Your contribution. Next, on the topic of African youth development in Western Australia, please welcome Mr. Kerna Ba.
Is he here? Where's Chernobyl? Okay, next.
Oh,
Next.
unfortunately, Mr. Ba is not here at the moment, so he'll have to make a speech later on. Now, most of you are aware that most communities have an elder whom they rely on in times of conflict, grief, and distress. Our community elder is one inspirational woman.
Alim.
She continuously supports and participates in any community event that she is needed at.
I'm just going to go get
She is the backbone of this community, and without her, our community would feel incomplete. On that note, I am very pleased to welcome the elder of the Guinean Community Association of WA, Hajja Marie Bangura. Unfortunately, Hajja Marie Bangura is not here at the moment, but she will be arriving soon. Mr. Ahmed Bar will keep you company for now. Okay, in the meantime, we'll put the music on and you guys can enjoy yourselves to some refreshment because our speakers are not here at the moment. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. dedicated for my brothers and sisters who've been crying every day for some equal right and justice. Life is so beautiful, so please we gotta keep a smile. Africa is the future. Yes, sir. Yeah, separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see my brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right. Yeah, separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see my brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right. Après la colonisation, l'Afrique a été divisée. Des partis politiques créés et un futur pour prospérer. Ces bombes d'attaque sont reconnues. C'est une plateforme de manipulation. À cause de nos ressources, ils ont formé des rébellions en Afrique. Et voilà le résultat de ce qui s'est passé au Libya. Mais pourquoi tout je viens pas de plus en plus mal? Let me tell you, say, separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Ils poussent les mauvais lignes de l'Afrique à prendre de la place pour profiter de l'absence de ceux qui peuvent servir mon Afrique. Pendant les guerres, ils viennent hypocrite des missions pacifiques. Et puis l'or et le diamant, et après tout ça, ils se quittent. Les problèmes de mon pays ont commencé en 58. Ils ont opprimé cette patrie pour qu'elle subisse le politique. Ils ont tué tous nos héros, je parle du colonel Kadhafi. Marcus Garvey and many more to say. Yeah, separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see my brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put the peppin on my eyes. Every time I see my brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right. Me take your gun and destruction. There is so much war going on in a melon, but right now, Jaja he guide my great life. No gun, no cock, that is the bad vibes. With Babylon, burn with your violence. We gonna come and mash up your place on your friend. Me big up King Solomon and Takana Zion. Never ever forget Fakri and this a shot for me. Autori and Coco Malela, pick up na woman. Irenola go to full modern solo. Yo, separation put your peppin on my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put your peppin on my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put your peppin on my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yeah. Separation put it up in my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put it up in my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of them I want to shed the eagle right, yo. Separation put it up in my eyes. Every time I see me brothers sisters, them I cry. Now yo, realize them I change it to lie. None of
Hey, you know, where the mouth say, you know. Yeah, to me, I need to tell you that me not ready. Yeah, me the one before to that go. Me the one before to that go. Not ready. Yeah, me the one before to that go. Now also see me when you for to that go. Me not ready. Yeah, me the one before to that go. Yeah, me the one for to that go. Not ready. Yeah, me the one before to that go. Now also see me when you for to that go. Did I matter? Me and editor, because do you want the minimum? What I gonna do? Oh, yeah, the do. That's what I'm gonna do. Baba just said me go on the menu where you're joking. You was in me where you got to me a photo taka. Mini what me I got to dano taka. So feed out sanani he to ana photo taka. Me no ready, yeah, me the one me photo taka. Me the one me photo taka. No ready, yeah, me the one me photo taka. You also see me where you photo taka. Me no ready. Let me know what me photo taka. Let me know what photo taka. No way. Let me know what me photo taka. So also see me what you photo taka. Yeah. I don't know me no man really me no really. Me know I am in the fuck no in a me no really. Me the bite is in no really a photo taco. Me know I land the taco me I got to. Me know my go the mother ni ya joku. Me know what another me I got to me do cool. Me la yo to the ya me ni return. No say me the river me no yo to. Me no ready. Yeah me the one me photo taco. Me no want me photo taco. No ready. Yeah me the one me photo taco. Don't see me when you photo taco. Me no ready. Yeah me the one me photo taco. Let me know what photo taco. No ready. Yeah me the one me photo taco. Don't see me when you photo taco. Me die mother. Me an editor. Because you know what I mean. Wanna go la do. Oh yeah the do. Just up the land do. Never just say me go on the menu where you jockey da. You was see me where you got a me a photo taka. Me ni what me got a dano taka. Safi don't sat nani he to ana photo taka. Me the one photo taka. Me the one photo taka. Me the one photo taka. Don't see me where you photo taka. Let me the one photo taka. Let me the one photo taka. This year key with a city road. Economic key, badness. Sofonia, Sarayania. I am man, a minimum cemetery, and Samia. Photo taco. A man, Sarajabo. Walla me walla. Ha, photo taco. Keep what?
Amis sportifs, bonsoir. Dans quelques instants, nous allons suivre le ski national de Guinée au grand complet. Salamu balontan, Akabe balontan, Ekiti balontan, Usman Gomu balontan, Babara balontan, Kernobari balontan, Salihu balontan, Sebuture balontan, Solomani balontan, Enfali balontan, Odelayi balontan, Morlayi balontan, Tarifa balontan, Mohamed Lamini balontan, Mohamedi balontan, Damba balontan. Ika pipolola, ika pipena, Gata kunkolona, Sanko pieto, Ika pipolola.